Episode number 260 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. All right. So I'm here with Rosanne Austin, one of my favorite people on earth. And I was so excited because we've always hit it off. And then we've talked about seeing each other in a Joe Dispenza.
Yeah. Well, ladies, oh my goodness. I'm here with my soul sister, Michelle Oravitz, and we're going to go deep into, I don't know, are we going to 4D or 5D, Michelle? I think we're going 5D today.
We're going straight to 5D. There's no in between. But yeah, I mean, it was insane. Let's begin. We'll start with like how it first started.
Yeah, well, you know what's really funny? Okay, so I was super stoked when we both wanted to go to this event. And for you, like that was a drive. For me, it was a flight. But what was really interesting, I think, from the get go for me when I reflect on that time is there was so much weird shit going on with my flight before I even like got on. And I was thinking to myself, like, what's the universe, what's God, universe, source sending me right now? Like, I've never been on a flight where they've changed the time of the departure like 4 times, and then you get on the plane and then they tell you they didn't do a security check, so they have to throw everybody and the baggage off the plane. Like, there were so many opportunities for me to not get to this event, Michelle, that I just kind of felt into it, and I was like, I'm not worried about this. Like, I don't have any weird feelings about getting on this plane. I know that everything that I need is going, like, it's going to be fine. But there were all of these external, I think, distractions.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my husband even saying, "Do you want me to come pick you up from the airport? Because this seems really weird. Like, this seems," and I felt into it. And I'm like, no, there's no fear here for me. I don't feel any fear anywhere. And that was kind of this interesting framework for at least how I started the event. And I knew, I'm like, I'm going into, this event from a perspective of I've been to an event of his before. Let's just see what unfolds. So that was the way that mine started. How did yours start?
Mine started pretty good because I got everything ready the night before and I felt like such a peace of mind. I was like, okay, everything's done in the house. I got everything in order and I just got myself ready. I went to bed relatively early, although I think my husband snoring woke me up a couple of times. but then got up, had a couple of hours, got a few things done, got in the car with Kelly, and we just left and went over and headed over. And I was really excited. But at the same time, I also didn't think about it too much. I was kind of feeling like I'm going in with a clean slate. Been there before. I think we had that in common. Been to one of his events last year and was so excited to go again because I felt like, okay, now I know what's coming. Now I know more or less like what the process is like. Because when I first did it, I was like, I had no idea what was coming. But then what was interesting is so Rosanne and I met, and we had some other people that were with us that we had met before, a friend of mine too. And we met, had a little lunch, got a little something in our system. And then I'm like, okay, what's your room number? What was your room number?
I think I was 552.
And I was
Yeah, I was
551.
552.
So we're a number apart,
I mean,
like by one.
yeah, how is that even possible when you're in a room with
It's a
thousands of
huge,
people?
yeah, it's a huge hotel. Like it's not, there were like thousands of people there.
Yeah, so that Michelle Oravitz is in 551, Rosanne Austin is 552. I mean, it's just crazy. We're directly across the hall from each other. I mean, there were so many synchronicities, Michelle. I think it was such a cool thing. And I think the reason why we like these events so much is it's a challenge for us. right? Like it's a challenge. I mean, that's the way I look at these things because, I've already lived my fertility journey. Like that part of my existence, like that chapter is closed. For me, although there are moments when I'm like, oh my gosh, I know I can get pregnant at any age. I'm like,
Mhm.
is it, I'm like, I think I'm done with my family. But then I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm open to whatever the universe sends me. But I was, thinking to myself, this is how we challenge ourselves now. Is like how much farther can we go in the way that we think? How much deeper
Mhm.
can we go in our level of belief and things like that? That's what really excited me about this event.
Totally, and I think that what he's teaching is that we have no idea, like, what reality is really about, and that's the truth. We have accepted a very, very limited reality, and we've accepted it. This is just the way it is, and it's this material plane of what's been done thus far, and we do not s- push that envelope. We just kind of sit with it. Okay, this is reality. We base all of the studies on it. Every study that's been there, we base our reality on studies. It has to be proven to be real. And it's insane what you hear from Dr. Joe, because he does studies on the complete opposite, like unlimited reality. And this is changing the way your cells behave, changing the way random event generators behave behind the scenes when people are meditating and coming together as a consciousness and a collective. And it's really insane. So I'm like sitting there this time. And because a lot of what he said I already know a lot better, it really started to mean something so much more than it did even last year. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, aha, oh my God, oh my God, this is crazy stuff. And Roseanne sitting next to me writing like insane. I don't even know what you were writing. You were just writing like crazy. Like she's nonstop writing. And then if she doesn't have her pad with her, she starts typing on her phone on her notes. I
Oh
admired
shit, you're
it.
reminding me I have to print it. I've got to print that shit. Yeah, I've got to print that. I
It
mean,
was insane.
well, and it was totally insane. And it's like, I mean, I agree with you 100%. This was more about like I'm also like I'm such a visual learner in some ways. That's also why I write so much down because even in college, law school, and then even as a prosecutor, I'm visual. So I can point to exactly if I can remember where something is on a page, I can remember the item.
Mm.
And so it's like I won't say a photographic memory, but it's that
It's
kind
like
of
an
written, the
association. You're
visual.
kind of making a connection
Mhm.
somewhere, and that's like your way of learning. And what was insane about it too is that it's really like the whole week is about training you to master, or not master because you're beginning, but you know what? Yes, master, because even new meditators, novice meditators, they've done studies on, they have insane changes in their physiology. It's crazy. Like even in their brainwaves, like there's like strong, legit changes in these people's like bodies and minds.
Yeah, and there was something that and I think the women listening are going to find this you know very telling is I think it was Dr. Toby. I can't remember his last name that showed up at the event. And he had said something as a speaker and he was basically saying essentially that if anyone doesn't believe in the mind body connection, they just haven't read the data.
That's it.
And that's such an important point because when you're doing your work and I'm doing mine, people just I think completely discount this mind body connection. They may get it intellectually and it's more of this, oh yeah, I'll get to that when I get to it thing. But it's like, no, son, you've got to look at this thing now
Yeah.
because you can't deny the efficacy. I mean, do you remember there was that 24-year-old, I can't believe I'm going to call him a kid, but he was kind of a kid,
Yeah,
like that
yeah. He was
24-year-old
a kid.
kid who completely healed his brain tumor
Yeah.
through his belief system and meditation. It's like you can't deny that shit. If
No.
two CT scans in a row, or maybe it was a PET scan, he shows a tumor. And then on the third one, after all of this meditation, changing his thoughts, changing his belief system, on the third PET scan, all they see is scar tissue and no freaking
Right.
surgery. The tumor healed itself. He healed
Yeah.
his tumor.
There was a guy. Okay, so yeah, there was a guy that went on stage and described his experience. And what I actually want to talk about with him specifically, that what really struck, like it really struck me, was that there was a scan that he did after he meditated for like, what was it, almost a year. And the scan didn't show much of a
Mhm.
difference. And he went to another event and he talked to Dr. Joe and he said, "What do I do? Like, I don't really see a difference." Dr. Joe said, "Just keep doing it." I don't know if it got bigger or it grew back or something. It was kind of like he basically went back, kind of like two steps forward, one step back. And he was like, "What do I do?" He said, "Just keep doing the work." And then he eventually kept doing the work. Then he found somebody with the same exact situation as him, around the same age. It was just another person at an event with almost identical situation. And his last scan showed that it was totally gone. He was like, wow, if this guy who's just like me had this happen, it could probably happen to me. And then eventually, like Roseanne just said, all they found was scar tissue.
This is, and I think this also highlights something that we both encourage the women that we work with to do is go fill your brain with positive stories,
Mm.
right? Because in sharing each other's stories, we can anchor more deeply in the reality that you can heal and
Yes.
that you can
Amen.
have the things that you, yeah, that in the things that you want. And like, none of this is about a quick fix. Like, I remember telling a woman the other day, I was having a conversation with a woman that wanted to work with me, and I was just straight up with her. I said, "Look, if you're looking for a quick fix, go find somebody else."
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm in this for women to get and stay pregnant, 40 full weeks of happy pregnancy, healthy baby. Like, it's not a quick fix. And people are so quick to say, oh, this didn't work for me. I'm not doing it. Like,
Yeah.
how do you know that? How do you know that? Like, I'm sure you see that with the work that you do as well.
Oh, 100%. I do. And it's a journey you're going to have, and any journey you're going to have setbacks. And I loved this guy's story because he had a major setback. He was like, "I've been doing this for so long and I'm seeing nothing." And I just recently, one of my patients, she's been coming to me for over a year, and she's coming like twice a week, like every single time. There it got to the point where I was like, "Oh my god, am I like just wasting her time?" Like, but she said she felt better, so she wanted to keep coming. And I was like, I was like, it's taking so long, and I really wanted to see her have the baby. And I sometimes get impatient. As the practitioner, I just want to say that sometimes I get impatient, and I have to remind myself to like stay the course and just see it happening. Well, she's pregnant. She heard the heartbeat. She's definitely a lot more further advanced than she's been in the past. And it's really beautiful, really amazing. And her husband's super happy. And, they've done a lot of work. And through this, it's, connecting with her spirit babies and connecting with certain people, really emotionally and spiritually connecting to their journey. And sometimes that takes a very long time.
Yeah, but it's so worth it. You got to stay in the game. I mean, and I think that's one of that's why I love what we're talking about now is or as Dr. Joe says, you're just not that good yet. Right?
Yep.
It's like you're just not that good yet. So I mean, it takes time to get better. It takes time to onboard these things. And
To train your mind.
what's funny is like, yeah, well, and I think it's also because one of the things, I mean, and this could have been really easy for us to say, oh, why go to another event? You've already been there. And I remember hearing that little self sabotage coming into my head. Like it was only there for a split second.
Where, in the
But
beginning of it
you and
or
I,
before you went?
or kind of before that I went, I'm like, oh, do I really want to go? No, like, of course I want to go. Like, of course I'm going to go. I'm going to keep doing whatever I need to do to keep moving forward. That's what we have to do. Like, if you want to get better,
Yeah,
you have to do, I mean, you don't just learn this stuff by going once. You
it's
keep
true.
going and you stick with it, right? And so I think that was one of the things I kind of smiled to myself at one point during the event thinking I knew what was coming, right? And then I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know shit about what's coming because you've never lived these days before.
And every
Just allow
meditation's
this to
different. Every
unfold.
meditation's different. It's like even I think to myself, even like a place that you live in. I'm driving down the same road every day, and it's a beautiful road in Miami. It's surrounded by water, and every day the clouds look different. It feels different. It's not the same. It's never the same. Nothing's ever the same. So when you keep doing it, you keep growing and you keep learning, and doing the work really truly is like getting better at understanding your inner terrain, understanding your mind, controlling it. You're mastering it. You're mastering your mind, you're mastering your body. And when you do that, you start to develop a power over yourself, your life, your body. It's crazy. And my fibroids have since felt a lot smaller, but I haven't had any scans, and I'm just going to keep focusing on it. I'm really going to keep focusing on it, having it disappear. And it's insane. But once you are able to get familiarized with your internal world and mechanism, which we're so unfamiliar with typically because we're so focused on outside noise, outside, whatever is happening outside. And we become more reactive to that. We don't get proactive, which is what Dr. Joe has been training us. I mean, he literally, this is not, you hear retreat, you think, oh, it's relaxing. It's not relaxing at all. It's a joke. It's
I
like
think
to
I
think that
came
it's
back.
relaxing. It's not.
Oh my gosh, I was so worn out. Like, I was just so insanely worn out after that whole thing. I was just like,
We were a mess.
what is happening right now? I'm like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. I'm like, for some reason, I don't feel very rested. I mean, we were in a beautiful location. Marco Island is no joke. But I'm telling you, I was wiped out.
Yeah, it literally wipes you out, but it's by design. He does it so that you get to the point where you cannot resist anything anymore. And you just like let go and you get into the experience because you can't fight it. You're too tired.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And so, it's funny because the other thing that I really took from this was an even higher understanding of what it means to attract what you want into your life, right? Like being in, most people think of, and he's not teaching the law of attraction. That's not what he's teaching. It's similar because the law of attraction is actually an ancillary law to the law of vibration. He's talking about what vibration is there a frequency that exists where you have your baby or whatever the example may be, where you have the home or you have the wealth or you have these things. Is there a frequency in an unlimited universe where this is true? Okay, find it, you
Hmm.
know, find that thing and then match that vibration and raise your emotional uh, you know, your feeling to meet that and then live and see it from that perspective. It's such a powerful thing. You were talking about spirit babies a few minutes ago. Like, what frequency do you think your baby is in? Do you think it's in some low frequency miserable? No, it's like babies are like the breath of God, right? It's right up there. You got to be in that frequency. And I needed a reminder about that. What frequency am I in right now? Am I in the frequency of what I want to call in? Or am I in some low vibe that would make anybody sick or bored or, any number of, negative things? I just thought that was fantastic. to have
Yeah,
a
it was
refresher on
really
that.
wild. I remember him mentioning a lot of things, and I was just like, oh my God, wow. And I just had all these ideas, and then I even had visuals to really describe it. It's just basically what he's saying is that yes, 100% you can be matter changing matter, and that means that you're basically in the material reactive mode of what is happening, what exists right now, and not seeing anything that could possibly or a possibility of something different than what you have now and what you've seen in the past. That's why a lot of times the past keeps repeating itself. When we're in this reactive mode, it's kind of like a default mode. So we create by default. And then he describes going into the quantum. And part of going into the quantum is becoming nobody, no time, no self, no nothing. And, if you think about it, what does that mean? That means complete surrender and non-attachment, right? We are not attached to our identity. I know it's scary, right? We're not attached to our identity anymore. Can we let go of that? Can we let go of all attachments to really everything and surrender completely into this present moment, this present now, with complete purity of consciousness? So when we become like so pure in our consciousness that it's like no longer anything else but the I am. I mean, that's kind of how my interpretation of it, but he says it just like it's really you're focused on nothing. And he keeps you in his meditations. He takes about sometimes a good 30 minutes prepping you to get into this nothing, this black space, this nothingness. And you need that 30 minutes. After, like in the beginning, it feels like a lot. Sometimes his meditations are an hour or more. And that 30 minutes is just to prepare you for like getting to the space of nothingness, like complete blank slate. It's like you are not associated with anything, you're completely blank. And then you go to this place where these infinite possibilities emerge, where you have access to them. And there's endless possibilities. If you imagine it, it's already a possibility because something has reached your mind, your consciousness, to form an idea. And that doesn't randomly happen. It's there for a reason. Like something reached, landed on you, and gave you that idea, that picture, that visualization. So get in touch with that. And then that's when you were saying, match up to that frequency, see it, feel it, become it. And that's when you're connecting through the quantum rather than the material. With the material, it's going to take longer. Everything's more dense, it's thicker, it's more drama. But then when you go right into the quantum, it's clean, it's pure, and it's instantaneous.
Yeah, and I love the way that you describe that. Are you sure you weren't taking notes?
Oh, I
Because
was
that was
taking
real
notes.
good. That's
Thank you.
real
I
good.
was
That's
taking
real
notes.
good. Yeah. No, I mean, and I think it's really interesting because I think it's, we as women, we have this natural creativity that I think we get disconnected from because we get painted into this corner of only what happens in the material world is what's possible. This is why women get sidelined by statistics and garbage and all kinds of stuff that distracts us from who we really are.
Mhm.
And I think it's heartbreaking because I mean, this is why I tell women all the time, "Hey, if this desire is in your heart, it's there because it was meant for you. Go for it. At some level, you know instinctively that this is for you.
Right.
So go for it. You have to go for it regardless of what the material circumstances look like, right? Because I
Mhm.
think you've had the circumstance as well, many times over. Women coming to you saying, "Oh, I have X number percent chance of getting pregnant." Well, it's like, is there a frequency in the universe where that percentage is not relevant? Find it.
Oh,
Get into
yeah.
that space. Don't wear that jacket. Don't wear that fertility struggle jacket. Take it fucking off and start thinking like a person who is not struggling. Because if you can use your imagination to imagine the worst, isn't it possible that you can use your imagination to imagine the best? And I think getting into a place exactly like what you're talking about, getting into that fifth dimension, getting into the quantum where there's no space, no time, nothing, right?
Mhm.
Except for what we choose to imagine. I think it closes the gap between where we are and where we want to be.
100%. And even at that point, like when I found in the beginning, it was a lot more challenging to get to that point and even do his meditations on that aspect of his meditations. I'm like, I almost struggled or tried too hard to imagine nothing. And I was just like, over time, the more you do something, the less hard you try. It's just like driving. When you first start driving, it feels like really awkward and you're trying too hard and you're too like hyper aware. And once you start getting comfortable with it, it becomes effortless and it becomes easy and you don't think too much. You just kind of slide into it. And it took a while to get to that point, but like the more I've done it, the easier it was to get to this place. But also, something that I love about it, and I kind of want to mention this to anybody who's interested in his work or thinking about doing it, is when you get to this state of nothing, it actually feels really liberating for a fucking minute to not have to worry about anything. To say, I'm just letting go of everything that I know. It just is so nice to have this little space of time where you could just drop it all, drop everything. It's liberating, and there's this freedom that happens with it. And it's kind of a renewal. It allows you, it gives you permission for that renewal to just let go.
Yeah, I mean, just the way you describe that, takes me back because I think about this and I'm like, doing the meditation. So I'm pretty regular with the meditations. Sometimes on the weekend I'm a little bit more relaxed, but like this morning I was up at 5:30 doing the meditation and stacking my habits. So like from 5:30 to 6:30 I'm in meditation. From 6:30 to 8 o'clock or whatever it is, I'm out doing my walk. But I really find like when we can carve that time out for ourselves and we make that a non-negotiable where we're saying, hey, this is I want to experience a different reality. So in order for me to experience a different reality, I have to do different things
Hmm.
and I have to think a different way. And by doing that consistently and dropping the drama about it, like, because at first I'm like, 5:30, and it's like 5:30 ain't shit when you're waking up at 4 a.m. at a Dr. Joe, event to do 4 hours. Or did we go 4 hours this time or was it three
I
and a
think
half? I don't
four. No, no,
recall.
I think it was 4 hours. Yeah, usually it's five, but this time it was four because we did the world walk
That's right, ladies. As you're listening to this, Michelle and I did 4 hours of meditation in one morning,
at 4
uninterrupted.
a.m.
At 4 a.m. So that means that you can do your 10-minute meditation or whatever it is and no complaining.
No, no,
No
no complaint.
complaining.
You cannot complain when you're there. That's no.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, I think it is a really powerful transformation because it made like a 20-minute meditation seem like nothing.
Hmm.
I'm like, give me more. Like it's like I'm down for the hour. I'm
Oh,
totally
totally.
down for the hour-long meditation now. Now I crave it.
Me too. Me too. Well, it's funny because I remember talking to a woman who became Buddhist, and I was talking to her at actually a yoga certification program that I did years ago for Kundalini. And I said, "Oh, so do you meditate every day?" She was talking about meditating. I said, "How do you do that? How do you feel like you're able to do it?" And she goes, "I crave it." In the beginning, it's like exercise. It's like going to the gym. At first, it's like, okay, I have to go to the I have to go again. And then you're doing it and doing it and doing it. Over time, it becomes like, oh my God, I have to do this. It feels so good. And you become addicted to the endorphins and you literally get a high from it.
Yeah. Well, and I think let's talk about this because you made a very astute observation
I
early
love your
on,
words.
and that was
Astute.
it's very true though because you were talking about, we get really caught in this box, this third dimensional box.
Hmm.
And I know that the women listening may be thinking to themselves, well, I mean, meditation, I do this meditation. What's this all about? And it's like, no, meditation is not about meditation. Meditation is about your consciousness. And when you expand your consciousness, that's when you are going to see shit that you've never seen before,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in our context, we're talking about opportunity. We talk about calling the right people in, getting out of the victim story, and a host of other wonderful side effects of doing the meditation and the mind work. Like, you literally change your consciousness. It's powerful shit. You start thinking, instead of why you can, you really start to think about how I can. It like expands this whole way that you think, which is why I think this work is so powerful.
Oh, big time. And I will say this too is that I always talk about food. Some food having very rich chi, vitality, and some that is like pretty much lifeless, processed food. And that in general could be applied to anything. It could be applied to thought and states of mind as well. There are certain things and states of minds that are very energy rich. They feel alive, they make you feel alive. And I think about statistics, and man, that is the lowest chi vibrating aspect of everything. It's just not alive, and it's not applicable to a living human that is full of life, that ultimately is designed to thrive. It's just so much more. There's just so much more to us than numbers, and we cannot minimize ourselves that way.
And you're so right. And it's funny because, like, and I love this that we're talking about consciousness. And just so that you get the PTSD of sitting next to me for like 7 days, here's the notebook. But I immediately opened to a page from when we were there, and I had circled this one statement: be so present it makes others uncomfortable. They can see that I'm not like the herd, which
Mm.
is so interesting to me when we're talking about statistics, right? Because, to riff on your point, statistics are in the past. Not only are they low vibrational, they may be decades old, sister. They
Right,
may be decades old. It's like, do you want to live a decades old story that's not even your own?
right.
It's
Somebody
somebody
else.
else's, because yeah, it's somebody else's. And because unless you were part of that study, that's somebody else's story. Do you want
Right.
that?
Correct.
Or do you want to live in the present? And I love that statement. It was so juicy. Be so in the present, it makes other people uncomfortable. And not like we are out to make other people feel uncomfortable. We're just not responsible for if other people feel uncomfortable. If we're so in the present and so in truth, like, think about what a day in your life would be like if you were that present.
Oh my God. I mean, it's everything. Everything's in the present. There's no mistake that it's called a present because it
Right.
really is. It's the biggest gift you can give yourself. It's where life thrives. It only happens in the present moment. When you start to take your energy and your intention away from that, then you become a little less here.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, I catch myself even in our conversation now, like, going back to that moment, but it's like, no, how Dr. Joe talks about the eternal now.
Yeah,
That's all there is. Like, the
that's all there
generous
is.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I think during our time, the other funny synchronicity. Oh, the other thing that I wrote on this page was, is it odd or is it God?
Ooh,
You
that's
decide,
so
right?
good.
Because while we were there, you, Kelly, and I all had our period. And I was like, fuck you guys. Because I think you got it before I
I got
did.
it.
And
I led that. I led that path. It just went
yeah,
boom.
you
I'm like,
you
oh.
led that. And I just thought it was so funny because I'm like, damn it, Michelle. I was
Yeah.
trying to make it through this event, but it was
Oh,
just,
yeah. Oh, yeah. We were in the bathroom, like, every second.
yeah, it's just this synchronicity, this coming together of souls and, coming together of consciousness. And what's funny? I was also thinking about this because you and I were talking about some plans that we have for 2024. And I was just thinking to myself how appreciative I am for meeting you and having, like, being able to share space with like-minded people and people that are curious, people that want more, people that are open to experiencing something other than just what we've been fed. Because to your point earlier, we are so much more than we think. We're just so much more. Like, the
Oh,
idea
yeah.
that we can't heal ourselves, the idea that we can't have something because there's lack, or we can't have this because there's scarcity, it's all made up.
Yeah, we are the quality of information, the quality of medicine, the quality of health, the quality of food, everything we has been dumbed down like to a point of such low vibration. And I think a lot of people are really fed up with that, and they want to just go take it to the next level, because the truth is, underlying all this non truth, or the false identifications that we've adopted throughout life, there is just I mean, we are so vast, we're so incredible. And what's amazing about Dr. Joe is that he's showing us data that shows this. I mean, it's actually proving things that seemed just mystical, quote unquote, mystical, or dream thoughts, or what, a fantasy land, or things that like have been talked about throughout history with many ancient sages, people going into deep meditation. He describes the pineal gland, the third eye, all the things that they used to talk about. Now he's actually measuring and giving us data, information on what it does and how it can impact the human brain and the brain waves and how they respond. And so he's basically showing us in many, many different ways how incredible we are. And one of the first things he says is, you've been led to believe that, or what was it? He goes, I'm here to tell you that you're way more powerful than you've been led to believe. And
Oh, yeah.
he really does. He stays to his promise, and he definitely fulfills it.
Yeah, and I think you can even see that while we're there. Not only in the experiences that you create, but your just immeasurable energy while we're there. I mean, think about
Yeah,
it.
you're
Like,
getting no
we weren't
sleep.
getting more than yeah, I mean, we're getting basically no sleep, but we're finding the ability to keep doing meditation that we generally, the untrained mind will try to get you, hey, 5 minutes is too much. 5 minutes, I gotta go. Like, I gotta go get my coffee and stuff like that. Nothing, nothing wrong with those things, but we have not learned, I think, as women, to prioritize ourselves. I think what's funny about this, and I think what makes Dr. Joe a lovably dangerous man, and I say that with so much love and respect for him, is that when you are somebody who understands the responsibility that you have to yourself, and you understand that everything that you need is right here in between your ears, this is the most valuable real estate there is, then you become a very dangerous person because you're not easy to control.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Because think about
There's
it.
so much
Think
truth in
think
that.
about Yeah, I mean, think about why. Think about what you get to do when all you want people to do is think about themselves in terms of statistics and what's been done already. You're very easy to control and manipulate. But when you open up your consciousness and you start thinking outside of the box, whoops, that's when you have women in their 50s getting pregnant.
Hmm.
Whoops, this is when you have women who are told they have a less than 1% chance of getting pregnant. Boom, bun in the
Hmm.
oven, right?
Yeah,
That's when you start to defy the odds.
totally. And I think about there was some study, and it was basically the bodies or the ovaries reacting to a cancer drug. And I don't know the exact details of the study, but basically what they were finding was that it was having an effect on the follicles in the ovaries. And they were thinking, oh, wow, like, are these people growing new follicles? And is this basically totally changing the perspective that a woman is born with all the eggs that she's ever had? And then I think to myself, the lady that was on Dr. Joe, who grew a thyroid, she had no thyroid. Her thyroid was removed, and she came back and started getting tests because she was on thyroid medication, obviously. And her doctor was like, whoa, like, it's way too high. Let's lower your dosage and see what happens. And he kept lowering it. He's like, something's weird. So he does an ultrasound and sees that she has a new thyroid. He's like, what? He thought that he did not do his job and didn't remove it entirely. But then he was like, no, this is like a full thyroid. This woman grew back a thyroid from the meditations she was doing on Dr. Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just extraordinary to me, and I'm so glad you brought that up because we have been told, a story about who we are that there's just so much out there historically, scientifically that like, man, we barely scratch the surface.
Hmm.
And so if you're only looking at your life based on what other people are telling you and not taking the time to go within and listening to what you have to say about this and so much credit to Dr. Joe because think about it. When we become nothing in that meditation, when we are no one, no thing, no time, nowhere, whatever, um then you basically have completely shed the story and
Right.
you can be anything you want, and we bring back pieces of that every time we go there. And I think it's just I'm so excited for the women that are listening to this because it's like if you take nothing else from this conversation of two women that had this amazing experience and obviously believe in this stuff because we've experienced it in various ways in our lives or we see it in the women that we serve. It's like just be willing to check it. Check.
Right.
You know,
Check.
even if it's just somebody says to you, "Oh, well, you have a 1% chance." Check that.
Right.
Check it.
Right. Right.
See who was in the study. Do any of those people have the same scenario that you have? Are they at all related to you? Do they have the same genetic makeup? Check.
Yes.
Because if they don't, you don't have to accept that story. Now, I'm not saying deny information that's available, but just like any other piece of information, check it.
Yeah.
Check it. Think critically. Ask yourself if this is a jacket that I want to wear.
Right. And then tune into what your body says, because your body will tell you yes or no. The more you become in touch with your body, and meditation helps you get in touch with that, those subtle sensations that tell you yes or no. And I've had so many patients come to me with the same thing, telling them donor egg is your future. And I'm not saying anything against donor egg. That might be a future for somebody, and they might feel resonant with that, but they didn't feel resonant with that. So I'm not saying one way is better than the other. I'm saying focus on what is right for you. And does that feel like a yes to you, or does that feel like a no to you? And listen to that, because your body does tell you that. There's
Oh,
muscle
yeah.
testing. I mean, there's studies on that. Like, your body is incredible in the fact that it really tells you what's right. And I will say this too, is that I just want to mention what I loved about getting to know you. Like, I knew that we were going to get along, but it was so effortless because Roseanne's so easy. Like, it was so easy because you and I are both no drama. We're just like, whatever. And I think that also we can rough it, like, because I think that we don't care about the roughing it, because we both feel dedication towards our own personal growth. And so what I loved about just being around you is your own dedication to your personal growth, to the truth, and to just immersing yourself in that moment. And what that means, and that the fact that what you do for a living is, first of all, I think is so incredible, but also just like what this is what she does behind the scenes. She works on her consciousness so that she can be better when she comes home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel the same. I mean, like, it was really cool because, I think it's a very rare thing when you can be, like, up at 3 in the morning, or what, 3:30 in the morning. I think I kept pushing it to, like, 3:29, knowing that we have to be down in the ballroom at a certain hour. But knowing that I was around you and the people that we were surrounding ourselves with, that we were all committed to something, super committed to being better,
Mhm.
and it was really cool because we were just us, right? Like, we were just us, and it was cool because there was no expectation, no weirdness. It was just, "Hey, I'll see you at 3:30 out in the hallway." You know what I mean? It was just
It's
so
easy.
effortless in that way. Yeah, it's super easy. And I really encourage women, who are listening to this, find your people, man.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
find your people. Be around other women who are committed to something. And it may not be the exact same thing you're committed to, but find women of commitment, women of who know how to exercise their will, and don't make excuses. I mean, I think that's what made it so cool, because you and I were just like, we don't make excuses for shit. We're just, it something either works or it doesn't,
Hmm.
and we don't tell stories about it. Like,
Hmm.
it was, I mean, we're using the word a lot, but it really was effortless because it just was, because we chose to be that way. And there is a tribe for everybody out there that chooses to live that way and, like, allow people to be who they are and come as they are and
Hmm.
just enjoy. Because I actually didn't know the other two women, the friend of yours that came and then the other friend that you knew. And I was just like, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy because I trust Michelle to attract good people into her life. And you totally did. Like, and so trusting in the present, trusting in the moment, being there with you, opened up the richness for me of that experience, and just, the other two that were with us were just such great people. And so, I hope that women take away from this the value of being a little adventurous and just allowing yourself to be in the moment.
100%. Absolutely. And I do want to also mention, when you were talking about how we were just like, whatever, we just went with it, and we just like let it go and didn't build stories around it. If you look at me, maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, different story. So I guess I want to say that, like, because it kind of goes back to that same theme, is that you're not always like, nobody starts out that way. It was a lot of work to get to a place
Mhm.
where I was able to shed the stories and I was able to teach myself to become more present. It wasn't always that way. It wasn't always that way for me. It was something that I
I'm
learned. I know you went through your own stuff going through the fertility journey. So I want to mention that because we're, first of all, nobody's perfect. We're going to have our moments, but it takes many years. It really is a practice to let go of what we are not, shed those excess, like, non-truths about ourselves and false identifications, until we can really emerge. And that emergence, that purity, is always present. It has that presence about it. It's kind of like connecting with that just by itself brings more presence.
mm, that I mean, so well said. And I think that the other thing about, um the experience that we had together at the event was that there was so much compassion, right? There's just so much compassion. And I think that, just as you were referring to who you were, 15, 20 years ago, oh my God, it was a stress case for most of my life, I'm not saying I'm not a stress case now, but it's definitely more under control. Just because, there's a huge difference between being a stress case and having a big call on your life, right?
Mhm.
Where you take your purpose seriously and you're driven. But that doesn't mean that it has to be so dipped in stress. And I think when I was mentioning compassion, I really think that when we can have compassion for ourselves and just a little bit more lightness, then we can take ourselves less seriously and be open to the present moment and the laughter. And look, Michelle, look how crazy we look at 3:30 in the morning, barely like in reasonable clothes, and going down there and being willing to meditate and whatever. So I think that there's a love of self and a love of others that can be on the other side of doing this work that I think is difficult to find, unless you do the work. So, yeah.
No doubt. Oh my God, no doubt. This is so good. I was like, okay, I really want to talk about my experience. I really want to share it, but I'm like, I can't do it without Rosanne. She needs to be here. We have to have the conversation. And I'm so glad we did, because it just, you have to be part of it, because you were part of it. That's like you were it. So I'm so glad we got to discuss this, because I think there's always something from these really real experiences that just by nature touch other people or awaken different parts of other people to do the work. And doing the work is not work. It can be effortless. It can be done in a way that just feels natural for people.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think in in women processing this, there's a reason, ladies, that we haven't told you exactly what happened during this 7-day meditation retreat. You can surmise from this that there was meditation, and there was meditation, a lot of meditation. I think they said it was 35 hours. But we're not telling you more detail, because we want you to have your own experience and not prejudge and just allow. Like, if anything, I hope this whets people's appetite to learn more and to see who they could be on the other side of that 7 days. Because I think that just at least sitting with that question, who could I be on the other side of that? Even if you never go to an event like that, but who could you be if you allowed yourself to get up a little earlier, meditate every day for 7 days? Who could you be at the end of that 7 days?
Hmm.
Who could you be at the end of your fertility journey by never giving up and continuing to feel into what's in your heart? Who could that be? I don't know. I have no idea, but I think I'm super curious about meeting her because that's somebody I want to know. Just like I'm so glad I know you.
Aw. I feel the same. I feel the same. And man, this is so much fun. And what can I say? I'm so lucky that I got to know you. It was like a gift. So love ya.
Yeah, love you, woman and ladies. Go find your people. Go start doing these things because you never know who's going to bounce into your life. Okay. Well done.
Absolutely. Yes. So I will see you on the next Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat.
Yep, we're going to be right there. They're going to be like, oh no, there's those two again. Thanks, woman.
Awesome. Well, bye, guys. We had a great chat with you guys. That we're saying bye, kind of like not a typical podcast, because we're going to be sharing this on both of our podcasts. So,
That's right. It's a Rosanne and Michelle show or Michelle and Rosanne show. Either way.
yeah, we should do this once in a while because it's fun.
Yeah. Either way, tune in. You'll be glad you did.
So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.